Thank you for that question, and I will do my best to answer it in this video on what convinced me to stop believing in the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses. So, just a brief background: I wasn't born and raised as a Jehovah's Witness, but I was introduced to them when I was 14 years old. And then, around 6 months after meeting them, I became a baptized Jehovah's Witness, and I spent 22 years as one. And then I finally disassociated myself in 2018. So it's been almost 8 years since I've officially left. And I will do my best to answer this question in as briefly as possible. And also, I do cover a lot of this in my memoir, The Kingdom Hall Effect, which is available on Amazon, if anyone's interested, paperback or Kindle. And I am working on having an audiobook as well for those who are not avid readers. But yes, I will try and reply to this as concisely as I can. And obviously not waffle too much, because I could really talk about this for all day. But we don't have all day. Okay, so I will say it wasn't something that happened overnight. It wasn't a instant process. So I would say that consciously I was a PMO, or physically and mentally out, probably good 4 or 5 years before I actually disassociated myself. So I had stopped believing it for good 4 years at least before I officially left. So that's a brief background. Now, what got me there? So, again, it's quite layered, and it was kind of a snowball moment, but I would say it probably started about a couple of years in after I got baptized at just after my 15th birthday, when I was starting to already notice, well, within first year really of becoming a witness, I started to notice the divisions, the cliques, the hierarchy. Yes, Jehovah's Witnesses will deny that that exists, but it does exist. The social hierarchy is real, and if you don't fit in, then you are not part of the cliques. Yes, I did have some friends, but the longer I was a witness, the more I felt isolated. Also, that I noticed there was a lot of gossip in the witness organization, even though again, they do have lots of talks about gossip and slander, which is highly discouraged, but people do it anyway, because the end of the day, that's all they are. They're just people. Just because you subscribe to a certain set of beliefs doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change your character. And if your character is something where you like to put other people down, then that's what you're going to do, isn't it? Regardless of what religious label you put on yourself. So I started feeling that I was looked down upon, isolated, and when I met my ex-husband, he wasn't a Jehovah's Witness at the time, and I was very young. I was barely 18. We actually got married really quickly, and he did become a witness later on, but obviously the act of getting married, what they call outside the truth, sort of created a snowball effect of, first of all, me becoming marked, which means I was socially deemed to be not someone people should socialize with. So consciously, I remember my very first doubt, probably when I was just after I was married, and I attended my first 3-day summer convention as a married woman, and my then husband came with us. And that was the first time, because of the isolation and the marking and the social exclusion that I felt. And remember, I was barely 18 at the time. so still practically a child, and my daughter's now 18, and you know, that would be psychologically very damaging if she'd had to go through that. So looking back now, I can see how traumatic that was for me. So, cut long story short, that was the first time I had a conscious doubt, but obviously I quickly dismissed it and I tried to work on it. And the whole time I was a witness, because there's a constant talk about you're sinful, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, and you need to try harder. It really affected my mental health, and I felt still very much excluded even after my then husband became a witness. I also felt looked down as a woman, regardless of the claims. I do feel that men are valued more in that organization than women. As time went on, I experienced friendship betrayals in the congregation, and obviously people would ice me out because I was still socially deemed not a good association. So as you can imagine, it was a very lonely time for me. Even the friends I did have, it was conditional. As we know, all friendships in the organization are conditional on the fact if you are either spiritual or not. Again, I am kind of like going through it very quickly and trying to bring the main points. So I would say consciously I started doubting the teachings probably in 2013. So what happened was I was looking up some other material online, which was to do with unhealthy patterns and some relationship advice, basically. And then when I read about the signs of abuse, I really noticed how that fitted the organization in general, and that's when my eyes began to open, especially because my marriage was crumbling at the time, and me and my ex-husband decided to go separate ways. It was a mutual decision. It was painful, but in the end of the day, I think we've both felt that the relationship had expired. We had two kids and we tried to do what was right for the children, and we did. However, the backlash was aimed all at me. So none of it affected him. He disassociated himself at the time, and everybody blamed me. They even thought I forced him to disassociate. And the backlash and animosity that I experienced and everybody turning against me finally opened my eyes fully that this was not the truth. And also, having become psychologically aware, I was noticing patterns of narcissism from the organisation, particularly from the governing body. So, again, cut long story short, at the time I was not in a place to leave straight away. I did want to leave, but children were quite young then. I was still homeschooling at the time, so I was very much at the mercy of the organisation and the people in the congregations, because that was the whole world my children knew at the time, and I was mentally struggling. And obviously after divorce, I carried on pretending and trying to have another go of it, but I genuinely could not bring myself to believe it anymore. I was always thinking about and planning how I could leave the organisation. I tried to fade, it didn't work. So in 2018, I discussed it in my book as well. There were some other events that happened, and I finally disassociated myself fully. But yes, so in short, I tried to keep it short, but that's what happened, and that's how I stopped believing. So if you've got any more questions, please pop them in. I'll do another video because I'm running out of time here. But yes, it's also discussed in my book. So if that's something that interests you, then link is in my bio. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.